Now, it is my privilege to introduce our Paula Siegel, who will today give today's sermon. Paula has been attending Universalist Unitarian Church of Fresno since she was 6 years old. 6. Paula majored in theater and education at Fresno State. She has written and directed children's plays for over 20 years. Paula's many delights include cats, smart girl, hats, and, as you come up, dancing in the church. I give you Paula.
Ten years ago, my husband and I took a vacation trip to New Orleans. And one day we had big plans to go to a particular restaurant that was way on the other side of the French Quarter from where we were staying. And so we walked over there, and it took longer than we thought it would. And by the time we got to the restaurant, there was a long line outside, and it turned out we were going to have to wait an hour just to get a table. Well, my husband and I, being who we are, we spent about 5 or 10 minutes standing outside the restaurant trying to decide what are we going to do now. And finally, we made a decision to go to another restaurant back closer to where we had been staying. And so I'm walking down Canal Street. By now the sidewalks are very crowded. And I'm looking in front of me at people, and about 3 rows of people ahead of me, I see the back of this woman's head, and I say, you know, if I didn't know any better, I'd swear that was my friend Mary Allen from Fresno. And I don't know what made me say, Mary Allen! And she turned around, and it was Mary Allen there on the streets of New Orleans. And the amazing thing about it, we were talking, is that, you know, if it hadn't taken us so long to get across the French Quarter, if there hadn't been an hour wait for a table, if we hadn't spent those 5 or 10 minutes discussing where to go, if we hadn't decided to walk down Canal Street, we never would have known the other was in Fresno. My goal today, aside from delighting you with this sermon, is to be a kind of a Unitarian Universalist evangelist for delight. I want to convert you to an appreciation of this wonderful concept. What is delight? Well, I looked in Webster's dictionary, and it says great pleasure, satisfaction, happiness. I think that is a really, really lousy definition. It doesn't convey it at all. What I have observed is that delight always contains an element of surprise. The bigger the surprise, the bigger the delight. Last winter, I was out walking in a field near my house, and I looked down and I saw what looked like an old candy wrapper somebody dropped on the ground. And being a person who always picks up trash in public places, I bent down and picked up one of my earrings. An earring that I had been wondering where it was for over a year. Now, the awesome thing is I had not thrown out the other earring, and I'm wearing them today. There they are. Yes. Now, I don't mean to give the impression that delight is always some kind of awesome coincidence. On the contrary, the best delights are those small, everyday wonders. I like to quote E.B. White from the book Charlotte's Web, that it's things like a shaft of sunlight at the end of a dark day, a note of music, the way the back of a baby's neck smells, and most important, ice cream with chocolate sauce. Now, I know that Unitarian Universalists are deep thinkers. We like to ponder things. So I'm going to go deeper with this notion of delight. And I will tell you that in my observation, delight is also connected to deprivation or suffering. Some of you, probably most of you, remember there was a thing called the pandemic, which is supposed to be over now. But we spent many, many months unable to meet in person because we were protecting those most vulnerable. And we met on Zoom, but it just wasn't the same because you couldn't see who else was there, just whoever happened to be on the pulpit. And then, I think it was in 2021, we had this Easter service out in the parking lot. And we all met, socially distanced, of course, but we could see everybody who was there, see their faces, and just get the wonderful aura of the people that we had missed so much. And what gave it a double whammy is, I don't know if any of you were there remembered, but at the Buddhist temple next door, there were these trees that were just exploded with white and pink blossoms. And it was because we had those long months of deprivation, it just made this whole experience even more delightful. And to continue my deep going, it brings to mind a major philosophical question that many people ask, to wit, if we live in a benevolent universe, why is there suffering in the world? And I'll give the short answer. In my opinion, it's because suffering is just part of life. I think a lot of people think, well, if I'm a good person, I can prevent anything bad from ever happening. And it just isn't so. And I also think that is kind of a crummy question. It's designed to make you feel bad about yourself. What I think is the better question is there any way I can take this suffering and modify it so it becomes something good? Because sometimes you can do that. Here is a story I don't share with many people. I was one of those kids who all through school had difficulty making friends. And I was one of those kids that everybody picked on. And I was very, very badly bullied at times. I've been through a lot of rough times in my life. I have to say that was absolutely the most traumatic thing that ever happened to me. To this day, I am still socially phobic. It's very hard for me to go up and talk to somebody that I don't know, or to even make a phone call. I'm always afraid I'm going to say or do the wrong thing, and then next thing you know, you're going to shove me into my locker or something like that. But the good thing is that it made me enormously compassionate to anybody who is on the outs, who is being bullied in any way. And I'll give you an example. Our house is right behind a grade school. And every morning we can hear the kids going to school, and then every afternoon we hear them coming, leaving, going home. And one afternoon, I heard the unmistakable sound of a kid out there crying as though his heart would break. And I ran out the back gate, and there I found a big kid bullying a little kid, and that got my dander up. And I went up to that big kid, and I said, "You stop that! You stop that right now! Don't you ever do that again!" Now, guess what happened every day after that? Both of those kids came by to visit me. They would tell me about their days. They would play with my dog. I would have thought, especially the older kid would have said, oh, this woman is, bad news. Obviously, I had given him something he needed, or maybe just showed him that I was a universal lover of children. Albert Camus said, "In the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer, and that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within there is something stronger, something better, pushing right back." Little kids know all about delight. I remember when I was teaching preschool, the first warm day of spring when the kids could go play outside barefoot. Oh my gosh, it was like Christmas and Easter and 4th of July all at once. They were, just going crazy, lying on the ground, kicking their feet up in the air. And here's the question. Why, the first day of spring, are we not out there going and kicking our feet up in the air? It's because so much delight gets suppressed in us. When we're little, there are all kinds of big people who want to attack our delight. My mother used to tell this story about when she was 5 years old. She went to a Christmas party, and Santa Claus comes in, and she's so excited, and she says, "Santa Claus!" And her sister says, "It is not, it's Tom Williams." But that's exactly the kind of thing that gets us. We express that delight, and somebody bigger tells us we are unacceptable for it. That's stupid. That's for losers. They make fun of you for feeling delight. Then we get hurt. We start to worry. Oh dear, what are other people going to think about? I'm going to make a fool of myself. And so we just get kind of this, dead, unemotional response to things. We get dulled to all the pleasures life has to offer. One of my great delights is our house band, Stolen Thunder. And you bet. Now, when I listen to that music, the little kid inside of me cannot sit still. I have to get up there and dance. But here's the thing about me. Almost always, I sit on the back row. And why do I do that? Because I'm afraid people are going to look at me and go, "What is the matter with her? Look who thinks she can dance." But as all good Unitarian Universalists, we need to hang on to delight, whether it's within us or in somebody else, because delight makes us tender. Celebrated Black author Ross Gay said, "Delight gives us a freedom to be softer in a world so ready to make us hard, to sharpen us." And with delight, we cultivate an attitude of worship and admiration and gratitude. And we grow in our ability to see the good. Delight elevates. It makes the everyday holy. And if that isn't the purpose of spirituality, I don't know what is. And the other thing about it is that it makes us sociable, because when we experience delight, we want to tell somebody else about it, which increases human connectedness. And to quote Ross Gay again, shared experience is essential to human survival. So we're not just experiencing delight, we are promoting the survival of the species by telling somebody about delight. And some years ago, I started kind of wanting to collect delight. And I started writing down, I started to think, how many delightful things can I remember that have occurred in my life? And I started writing them down on a 3x5 card. And let's see, some of them, a back scratch. I will also say giving a back scratch. I was able to please a UU this morning, delight him, and that delighted me because he wanted a back scratch. Oh, the first time I put glasses on when I was 11 years old, it was like, you can see every leaf on the trees. Oh, the passage of a really great law. You young people have no idea how rough it was back in the olden days. And you're not going to believe this, but in my youth, a great many public toilets, you had to pay before you could use them. I know, hard to believe. It was terrible because, if you weren't, imagine, you don't have the money or you don't have the right change. It was terrible. But in the 1970s, pay toilets were banned. First in California, woohoo, and then in the whole rest of the country. Yay! So I hope that has inspired you, because we are going to engage in a little audience participation. You should all have received, when you came in, a 3x5 card, a pencil, and a list of some of my favorite delights that are off of my 3x5 card. If you didn't get one, raise your hand, and somebody, I'm sure, will make sure that you get one. And so we are going to take just a few minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, and what I'd like you to do is to start writing down some delights. Maybe you'll be inspired by this. You'll have some that are, anyway, you get the idea. I see some of you are already writing. So Lorenzo, a little under scoring, please. Okay, and I see some of you, looks like you're kind of in a place to pause. But you're not done yet with the audience participation. As I mentioned before, delight is indicated is to make you sociable. So if you are comfortable, I want you to turn to someone sitting near you and tell them about one of the delights that's on your list. And those of you who are at home can type it into the chat box, because we will look at these things. And if you're in the socially distanced section, I give you permission to text a friend if you would like. So, but also make sure, if there's 3 of you sitting together, make sure that the third person isn't the odd person out. So I'll give you a minute to just share one of your delights with another person. Then have them share their delight with you. Okay, I'm sure you guys are all still have much. This is something to talk about during coffee hour. See, and now you got a topic of conversation. So anyway, I am going to close with just a couple of thoughts. Anthropologist Joseph Campbell famously said, "Follow your bliss." I've never liked that word. It implies you're escaping from all of life's difficulties, bliss. But delight acknowledges the difficulties and finds joy in the midst of them. So I say, follow your delight. And I bid you now to go forth. Begin where you are. And as you go about your day, gaze on the wonder, beauty, and sweet surprises that the universe has placed here for us. And if you should find yourself even mildly excited, take a deep breath and let out a big wow. May it be so, blessed be, amen.